power is cool, but it's way too expensive. Why would we choose to throw away money when we could just use cheap renewables instead? Yeah, I hear ya. Power should be as affordable as possible as we transition to cleaner sources. But there are a lot of hidden costs with wind and solar, which you might not have heard about as much. Hidden costs? What are you talking about? While the price tag on renewables looks great at first glance, there are system costs that don't show up in the sticker price. When you add lots of wind and solar to the grid, you need loads of backup battery storage for when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. Plus, you need more transmission lines since renewable sites are usually pretty far from cities. At just 10% wind and solar, these system costs add around $8 per megawatt hour. But when you push to 75% renewables, the cost jumped to over $50 per megawatt hour. And here's something people often forget. You have to replace wind turbines and solar panels every 20 years. It's not super sustainable and the costs will really start to add up. With nuclear, one plant can run for 80 years or more. Well, that's interesting, but nuclear plants still cost billions to build and they always have time and cost overruns. You're right, nuclear does have high upfront costs. About 60% of nuclear's costs come from construction. But here's the thing. Once they're running, nuclear plants have some of the lowest operating costs out there. The fuel is just 15 to 20% of total costs compared to up to 90% for natural gas plants. You gotta think about nuclear plants as infrastructure. A long-term investment that's not gonna budge, like a highway bridge or a hydro dam, for example. What about the energy itself? Isn't that expensive too? Let's break down the actual costs. In the US, nuclear power costs around $44 to $71 per megawatt hour to produce, depending on interest rates. Sure, that's higher than some alternatives, but when you factor in those system costs we talked about, plus the fact that nuclear plants run at 95% capacity versus 25 to 35% for renewables, it all evens out. Renewables are also cheap because they're heavily subsidized. If we were to look at unsubsidized costs, including the system cost, they're a lot more expensive, and they get more expensive the more you add. Okay, now that's interesting. So what's the real cost comparison over time? Think about it this way. With wind and solar, you're paying less upfront, but you're constantly paying for backup power, new transmission lines, and completely replacing everything every 20 years. With nuclear, you pay more upfront, but you get reliable, clean power for 80 years with minimal extra costs. It's not about what's cheapest today. It's about what makes the most financial sense for the next half century.